Well, today I'm going to come back to what has been my perennial problem since I started these videos. I have had audio issues, and I have a HyperX Quad S mic. This guy, which is pretty and it's cool and all that. I kind of like it. And it was working for doing all my recordings, but I just couldn't get it to update the firmware because it has software that downloads on Microsoft, the Microsoft store called Ingenuity. That's the name of the software. And the software wanted me to do a firmware update before it would allow me to use the mic properly or be able to set it up and, make corrections or modifications or things like that. And it also wouldn't let me use the microphone jack on the back of it. I couldn't plug in a jack and then hear what I was saying through my headphones, and the only way I was able to figure out how my recording was going to sound was if I did it and then stopped the recording and then opened up that recording later and check it to see what it sounded like as an MP3 or whatever. And so that was not a very good thing. It's always better to be able to see what things sound like as you're going along. Not have to depend on, I've done this whole video now and I find that it sounded tinny or there was a lot of background noise or whatever. And maybe I should redo it. Usually I wouldn't because it was time consuming. So anyway, the firmware would not update. Let me just pass on to another screen here. This is Reddit. And on Reddit, I had gone online to see if I could find someone who had an answer to this whole thing. And I ran across this question, Quadcast S firmware update issues. The guy was basically having the same issue that I was having. The software would not update, the firmware would not update. This updating Quadcast S firmware, this can take a few minutes. Please do not disconnect the wireless adapter. And then it would show update 1 of 1. And then it would say 1 minute left, but those were both grayed out and it would never do anything. And I waited 10, 15 minutes sometimes. No change. So basically he was having the same problem as me. The next post is from the moderator on HyperX Gaming, and this guy gave me an answer. He was a little bit more detailed about some things that I'm not quite sure about, like AS Media and AMD chipsets and things like that. Whether you're plugged into a USB port allocation and corresponding controllers or to a CPU controlled port. Well, I don't know what my ports are. But he says if you can't find that information in the motherboard manual, you'll have to try each port individually, run the update, and wait a minute or two for it to progress beyond 0. If it stalls, move to the next port and run the update again. So that's what I did. I tried plugging my USB into all of the ports on the front of my computer. That didn't work. Then I thought I already was using one in the back, and that wasn't working, and I had one empty one in the back, and so I tried that, and that wasn't working. And so then I moved up, because I have 6 ports on the back. I moved up to the middle ones. I didn't try the top ones yet, but I first unplugged my external hard drive, and I plugged it in to the port that the Quad X or HyperX Quad was originally in, and I checked it to see if it was working. And so, yeah, my hard drive was still working. I was able to access it, so that was a good thing. And I tried from there plugging in the HyperX into that port that I had just stolen from the hard drive, and told it to update the firmware again, and lo and behold, it did it. So that made me happy. So as a result of that, not only did I have better access to the controls for the HyperX, I just let me see. That's not. This is not. Scene one. Oh, I'm going to have to move this guy over. Put it on my other screen. And you see, I've got all this topped out, but all it really is affecting is my headset volume. So, and it works fine. I'm getting it. It's all working the way it ought to. The lighting patterns are all there for me to play with if I want to. I don't really care about changing them too much. So this thing is good. And all it took was finding the proper USB port. So if you're having issues with anything like this, microphones or things not working when they should be, like my microphone or my headset jack on the back of the microphone, maybe that's all you need to do is get your firmware updated by finding the USB port that is going to work for you to run it off of. It was that simple of a thing for me, is just being able to get the thing plugged into the proper location so that I could finally hear it, and everything else working the way it should. So I just want to say thanks for listening, hanging around with me for 5 minutes or whatever this has taken, and give me a thumbs up if you can, and a like, and if you can subscribe, I'd appreciate it. And you guys have a great afternoon, great day. We'll see you tomorrow.